Hello, welcome to More Yoga with me. Emily, thank you so much for joining me today. I thought I'd talk just a little bit before we start about breath in yoga. So you might have noticed there are very similar cues that I give for breathing. So inhale into cow, exhale into cat, inhale partway lift, exhale fold, all of these things. And they're not commands, right? It's more of a way to keep you focused as well as me, frankly, um, to keep you focused in the yoga practice. But sometimes it feels better to exhale into cow and to inhale into cat. So never feel like what I'm calling out must be followed, at least, well, I was about to say at least in terms of breath, but in terms of anything, right? Do your own yoga practice if that's what you would like to do, right? There's at rest, adults' breath ranges usually between 12 to 20 breaths per minute. And in activity, so like if we're doing a flow, the breath range is more like 40 to 60. So your breathing rate is not going to be the same as mine. Mine's probably a little bit higher because I have asthma anyway. Um, so I guess all of that to say, breathe how you need to breathe, and I will try to encourage that also, but also messing around with the breathing patterns, at least the more traditional breathing patterns that we have in yoga. Anyway, so let's get into it. I forgot to start my watch, but that's okay. Today we are going to do a little bit of single leg balancing because it's my only, it's such a great thing to do, especially coming into this winter season. For those of you who live in a wintry place, you may be thinking about going skating or skiing or even just walking on icy paths, and having the ability to balance and catch yourself on one leg is super important, particularly as we age. Who's aging? Not me. Nonsense, sorry. Reset. But it's a really great tool, and then also can be used for functional strength elsewhere, right? Single leg work in the gym or dance, right? All of these different places. So using those muscles, particularly working the stabilizers in the bum, can really help release tension in the low back. So you get like this really beautiful twofer on it. That being said, let's start lying down. So you can be on your back, legs outstretched or knees bent. Today, I'm not using a strap, so I don't know why that's there. Speaking of breath, as being a way to stay focused, let's try to focus up a little bit, Emily. So bring your feet to the floor. They can be hip width apart if you wish, or even wide, and let the knees hang in toward each other. You'd have your legs outstretched. You could have the soles of the feet together and the knees wide, like in a butterfly position. And this is a really great place if you have blocks or cushions that you could bring them underneath the knees or the thighs to give yourself a little bit of support, particularly if it feels quite tight through your groin. Again, only if you're choosing to take this sort of supine butterfly posture. Otherwise, take a little loop of the shoulder blades onto the back so the heart opens just a little bit more. And then for a few breaths, if you wish, if it feels good, inhale through your nose. Exhale, sigh your breath away. A couple more. And then continue breathing however you need to, whether it's in and out through your nose or your mouth. Right, however you need to. Notice how your breath is flowing. It feels smooth or maybe a little bit jumpy. If you wish, you could try to lengthen the breath a little bit more to smooth it out even more, but without forcing it, right? We don't need really deep breathing here because our bodies are at rest. Whether or not you're breathing out through your nose, maybe you're breathing through your mouth, it doesn't matter. Continue observing the breath. Last couple breaths here. And then, right on cue, I start to yawn. So maybe you bring a little bit of movement back to your body, or take a big yawn. You take a little wiggle of the fingertips or toes. You might start to deepen your breath. And eventually, draw your knees in towards your chest. And take a little rock from side to side. You could draw circles with the thighs and the hip sockets, whether the legs go in the same direction as each other or in opposite directions, whatever feels good for you. Last couple breaths just to wiggle out any tightnesses or kinks or clacks. And then when you're ready, bring your feet to the floor. So knees stay bent, feet hip width apart, parallel-ish, close enough into your bum that you can maybe tickle your heels with your fingertips. Right, so they're not in too close, they're not too far away. If your feet are mat width apart, your feet are too wide, right? Just hip width apart. So most of you will have to kind of reach around the bum to find the heels. Maybe not, depends on the shape of your body. A little loop of the shoulder blades onto the back, and then bring your arms into cactus. If you wish, some people prefer practicing bridge with the palms face down. I quite like cactus, robot, not cactus. And then as you inhale or exhale, whatever you want to do, press your heels into the floor and slowly lift the pelvis and the spine up and away. And then on your exhale or your inhale, slowly lower back down to the floor. So we're just going to move with the breath, lifting into bridge and then lowering. For me, whether it's habit or whether it actually feels better, I find I like inhaling to lift and exhaling to lower. But often people will say to exhale on the exertion and inhale on the release. So whatever works better for you. And the next time that you're up in bridge, pause there. Okay, so now you might walk onto the outside edge of the shoulders a little, just to give yourself that little bit of extra lift. We're not going to clasp hands underneath. Keep the hands either in robot or palms to the earth. And then I want you to think of squeezing the bum. So immediately the hips are going to lift a little bit higher. And then think of pressing the heels away from you and see where you feel that activation in the body. And then think of hugging the heels back toward you. And then find a balance between those two, but still squeeze the bum because we want to get extension at the hips, and your bum is the strongest, right? Those muscles are the strongest muscles in your body. They do a lot of work in terms of stabilizing and protecting the spine. Last breath here, and then slowly lower down to the floor. You could take a little windshield wiper of the knees if you like. And then come back to center. So setting up for our next set. Feet hip width apart, maybe hands by the side, maybe in robot, again, whatever works best for you. And then press your feet to the floor, lift up. Now, you're going to send all your weight to your right foot. So you might actually walk the right foot in a little bit here, just so you're not quite so far over to the right. And then pick up the left knee. And then imagine that you've got something in the hip flexor that you're hugging that knee toward you. And if your right leg cramps like mine just did, then reset. So hug that knee toward you. And then couple single leg bridges. You're probably not going to get as high up as you would with two legs. Make sure that left hip isn't just dragging down. Keep it in line with the right. Last one here. And then bring that left foot down and lower down to the floor. A little windshield wiper of the knees or shake out of the legs, whatever you need to do to release. And then we'll set up for the last set. Feet back, hip width apart. And then lift the hips up. Heel into that left foot into the center a little bit more. And then draw the right knee toward you. And then start to move through single leg bridges on the left side. Keep that active hug of the right knee toward you. Last breath, or last round, and then right foot comes to the floor, lower back down, shake it all out. Hug your knees into your chest, little rock from side to side. As always, you might feel great rocking and rolling up and down your spine here. If you want to do that, otherwise roll to one side and come to hands and knees. So eventually, setting up with your knees underneath your hips, toes can be tucked or untucked, whatever works best for you. Hands outer shoulder width apart or wider. A little draw of belly button to spine. Spread your fingers wide. And then as you inhale or exhale, let's try exhale. As you exhale, lift the tailbone, hollow through the lower back, broaden through the collarbones. And then inhale, round through your spine. Press the spine up to the sky. And then maybe you exhale into cow and inhale into cat. And if that just feels super bizarre for you, then breathe how you would like to breathe. Sometimes when we stick with the same breathing patterns, we start to lose focus as well, right? The mind starts to drift. It's like when you drive the same route day after day, your brain starts to kind of not pay as much attention. And as always, if there's any other natural movement that you'd like to take here, feel free to move how you want to move. And then come back to center, hands and knees. I'm going to turn to face you. Now we're going to do a little bit of single knee balancing. So if you have a pillow or a chip foam block or something that you'd like to bring underneath your left knee, it's not necessarily not a bad idea. A little draw of belly button to spine. And then make sure the left toes are tucked unless the pillow is really high and it's harder to find that. And then start to pick up the right leg. And you can draw circles here. You can make sure you go both directions. You could do figure eights, but just mobilizing the right leg in the hip socket. And then come back to center, a couple little, we call them dirty dogs. So knee out to the side and then down. And then last couple breaths here. Start to lift that right knee back behind you, sole of the foot flat and pointing up to the sky. And then dip the belly, lift the heel a little bit more. Exhale, round. Inhale and exhale. Or exhale and inhale. Generally, I find when you're getting a lot of compression through the front body, it's easier to exhale. But last breath here. And then slowly return, hands and knees. Shake it out a little bit. You might be feeling that left side getting a little bit fired up. I'm not sure what that wiggle was about. Switch the block to the right side if you're using one or padding. And then plant your hands. We'll start to do the circles or figure eights on the opposite side. So again, as always, moving however you need to move. And then come back to center. We'll do those little dirty dogs. So lift the left knee out to the side. And the hip can lift, it's fine. Or you could try to really isolate it. And then last thing, left knee lifts behind you. Flex the ankle so the sole of the foot presses up to the sky. Inhale, lift. Exhale, round. Or whatever breathing works for you. Last one. And then return to hands and knees. Little wiggle or shake. You might stay here, moving and grooving however you'd like to. Some of you might choose to take your knees wide, toes together, sit the hips back into child's pose. You could stack your fists underneath your forehead. Some of you might choose to take downward facing dog for a few breaths. So go wherever you need to go for a couple breaths. And my friends in child's pose, meet us either in hands and knees, tabletop, or downward facing dog. For a couple breaths, my friends in down dog, pedal the heels toward the floor, hug the upper arm bones toward each other, press the floor away a little bit more. If you're in hands and knees, you might practice being there with just the knees lifted, even just an inch or so. So last couple breaths wherever you are. And then look to the top edge of your mat. And on your exhale or inhale, walk, step, or hop forward to standing forward fold. You could rest your elbows on your knees or thighs. If you have blocks, you could bring them underneath the hands, bring the floor up to you. You could clasp opposite elbows with hands. You could sway from side to side. You could be still. I just want you to do what you need here. Make sure that the knees aren't hyperextended though, right? You want a little buoyancy on them or even a deeper bend. And then release your hands if they're bound with fingertips to your shins or blocks or the earth. A little part-way lift, belly button to spine. Try to lift with that lengthened spine rather than rounding, so send the sit bones back and then let it all go. Couple more. And then when you're ready, bend your knees, head heavy, arms heavy, slowly start to roll up to standing. So I really want that crown of the head to dangle super heavy till eventually you make your way all the way up. Couple loops of the shoulders, up, back, and down. A little wiggle or release. All right. Whew. Standing. Love it. How long did it take us to get here? About 20 minutes. So bring your feet hip width apart. Again-ish, right? So hip width is not outer edge of the hip, and it's certainly not shoulder width. It's literally where your femurs hang from the hip sockets. Right? So you can kind of imagine where that is. Just a comfortable standing position, right? Little buoyancy on the knees, belly button to spine, and then sit into chair pose. So hips down and back. Now we're not going to have the arms up because we're going to be here for a while. So get a little loose through the upper body, shoulder blades on the back. Hands could kind of come forward doing this, I don't know, like if you're a rugby player about to take a kick at the post. And then let's rock a little bit, side to side, front and back. And then start to shift all your weight over onto the right leg. Come up onto the toes of the left foot. Take a couple taps up and down. Place cake. That's what it is. And extend the left leg forward. Toes can always come to the floor. And then pick it up. And then out to the left. And up. And then back. And up. And out to the left. And up. And then send the weight back into find center, because that leg's going to want to shift you over to the left. Now go all the way over to that left leg. Couple pulses here. Right? Belly button to spine. Don't lose that activation. Don't come up too high. Bum back. Couple taps up and down with that right leg just to find your balance. And then extend the right leg forward. And pick it up. And then back out to the right. And up. And behind. And up. Out to the right. And up. And then back to center. Last couple breaths here. Maybe you sink down a little bit deeper until you come into your forward fold. Woo! Little release. Little wiggle. Maybe you take a little part-way lift. And then let it go. And then charge your legs this time. Inhale, sweep all the way up to the sky. Or exhale. And then release. Hands to prayer. Shake it out a little bit. Whew. Feeling okay? Why not? Let's go back into chair pose. Hips down and back. So really simple movement. Tailbone down slightly, belly button to spine. Okay. Really simple movement, but really fantastic work for those glutes. Send the weight over to the right leg. Okay. And then little draw of belly button to spine. Shoulder blades on the back. Pick up that left leg. And then bring it forward. And up. And out to the left. And up. And then back. And up. And out to the left again. And up. Watch this one. Curtsy to the right. Ooh. And up. And then come back to center. Find center. And then shift over to the left. Belly button to spine. Couple taps up and down. With that right leg. Hips still back. And then right leg forward. And up. And to the right. And up. And then back. And up. And out to the right. And up. And then curtsy to the left. And up. Come back to center. Last couple of breaths here. Snuggle down a little bit deeper. Tailbone down. And this time stand all the way up. Woo! Shake it out a bit. All right. One more little bit of balancing from side to side. So you're probably feeling those glutes, you know, firing up. And that's a good thing because the more these work, the less the low back starts to go like this, right, and get tight. So send the weight over to the right leg. Little belly, little buoyancy on that supporting knee. And then pick up that left knee. Inhale here. Exhale out and back. Or inhale out and exhale back. Whatever feels better. Maybe you're just taking a couple breaths per movement. Next time the knee is out, pause there. Extend the leg and bend it. And extend and bend. Flex. Extend and flex. Okay, and then slowly start to cross that left ankle over top of the right thigh. Knee goes out to the side, and then send your hips down and back again, right? So now we're in a single leg chair pose with a figure 4 position on that left leg. So balance is going to be wobbly. It's going to be shaky. You might stay here, hands in prayer. Some of you I know will want to deepen it a little bit. So you could bring your forearms to your shins. Some of you might choose to go into the arm balance with hands to the floor, Ekapada Galavasana. Otherwise, stay here with me. So you're getting a little bit of a release on that left side, but that right side is working like crazy. Make sure the right hip isn't sneaking forward. Drop it back. I'm not sure why I would exaggerate the movement like that and expect to stay stable. Last breath here. Good, and then come all the way up to standing, uncross the leg. Woo! Shake it out a little bit. That's using quite a bit for me on that right side. The more of this sort of work you do, the faster your glutes will switch on, and the more it will start to kind of tense. And sometimes it feels so hard. It's like you're creating diamonds in your butt. So send the weight over to that left leg. Buoyancy on that supporting leg. Pick up the right knee, and then take it out to the side. And then breathe however you want to. Inhale or exhale on the opening or the closing. Next time it's out, pause there. Extend the right leg and flex. And extend and flex. Toes can be on the floor. Right. Take it where you need it. And then pause. And start to cross that right ankle over top of the left thigh. Send the hips down and back. Because if you're not bending the supporting knee, if you're not sending your hips back, you're not getting any release on that right side. So maybe you stay here with me in the figure 4 balance or stretch. Maybe you fold a little bit deeper without rounding too much through the spine if you can. Some of you might reach to the floor. Whew. Couple more breaths here. This feels wobbly for me today. Oh, and then come all the way up to standing. Shake it out a little bit. Yow. That's enough of that. Inhale up to the sky. Exhale, fold. Okay, for a few breaths here, do whatever you need. You could move a little bit from side to side. You might take a bind on the toes or under the feet. Right? Everyone thinks of this as hamstring stretch, but you're getting really deep flexion through the glutes as well. And then if you're bound, release. Take a little partway lift. Let it all go. Come down to hands and knees. A little wiggle or shake. And then switch over onto your bum so that you can roll all the way down onto your back. And hug your knees into your chest. Little rock from side to side. Let's end with a little bit of a twist. So right arm out to the side. Maybe you shift your hips right as you exhale or inhale. Lower your knees to the left. So not really a stretch for the glutes, but a nice release for the back, for the spine. Last couple breaths here. And then slowly make your way back to center. Reset your spine and your pelvis. Maybe shift the hips left a little bit and then lower your legs to the right. As gentle or as deep of a twist as you need. And it could feel so different from one side to the other. Even though we're still just rotating the spine, the obliques get released in different ways. All of the muscles on the back get released in the opposite direction. So if you have slept strangely on one side, you might feel the release more into the opposite side. And then slowly come back to center. And then hug your knees toward you. Take them wide toward your shoulders or armpits. You might stay here or kick your feet to the sky for happy baby. You could grab the backs, the thighs, or anywhere along the legs, the ankles, or the feet. Try to keep a neutral spine so there's a little bit of space at the lower back, or at least the feeling of that, rather than pressing the low back into the floor. You could rock a little bit. You could extend one leg or the other. And then if there's anything else you feel like you need before your rest, please feel free to take it. It could be posture, meditation, or breath work. Otherwise, find your pose of rest, whether it's flat on your back, legs bent or straight. You can rest on your side or a seated meditation. And for 3 breaths, little inhale, and exhale, sigh. Couple more. And continue breathing however you need to, whether it's in and out through your nose or your mouth. But let go of the breath control. Return to your natural breath. With each exhale, let your body melt a little bit deeper into the earth. And stay here longer if you can. 5 or 10 minutes. Thank you so much for joining me today. Namaste.